was actually introduced to the web about 15 years ago, which starts to feel very old, when I was at Oxford University, and I sat in a room with some science geeks who told me that there was this network of computers and you could see information anywhere in the world. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating. I just thought this was an extraordinary idea, and I just wanted to find out more about it. So I went to a computer room and I saw this really boring screen. There were no browsers at the time, but there were people there who were communicating, and you could post something and things were beginning to happen. So 10 years ago I came back to Brussels and started ZN, an eMarketing agency, and we've been working with clients to figure out how this new environment was transforming their business, the way they communicate, and the way different people can access information and can talk to each other. And actually, I have to be honest, when I started, I was learning from my clients probably more than they were learning from me. Now, I think 10 years later, I'm able to give something back to my clients, I hope. But it's really been a journey of learning, and it's a constant journey of learning. Now, I firmly believe that the future of people in the communication business is online. I really think that for you, if you're working in any field that's related to communication, you need to understand what's happening, and it's critical not just for your career, but for your company. And it's that understanding that's really the key question to look at. Now, we've all been through a recession. We're actually celebrating 1 year to 2 days and 1 year to the bankruptcy of the Lehman Brothers, which started a financial recession and kind of exploded, and it's accelerated the incredible uncertainty that we're surrounded by. A lot of our clients have faced some dramatic changes, massive restructuring, ongoing uncertainty. We even have one client that's in Chapter 11 since the last 6 months, hoping to come out of it soon. But essentially, it's incredibly difficult. The crisis put a lot of pressure on everyone. Now these two Chinese characters, I'm told, mean crisis. And the two characters actually stand for danger and opportunity. And I think that's exactly the situation we're in right now. There's a huge amount of potential risk around us. I mean, restructuring is still going on, plenty of uncertainty, but there's a tremendous opportunity because the recession has forced us to ask ourselves some questions that basically we could not address, we didn't have to address before. And as a communicator, most people saw their budget cuts or being frozen, and so the question was, what do we do about it? And we look at what we've done and what works, and now we need to rethink how we do things. And that's why I strongly believe that the traditional model of marketing is actually finally dead. It doesn't mean that it's going to disappear overnight, but it means that as a concept, the idea of just spending all your money on TV and above-the-line communication is never going to return in its pre-recession form. It doesn't mean that you stop doing communication, it doesn't mean that you stop doing all the activities, but there's been a kind of dramatic rethink of how all this works. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity. But to do that, you need to think differently. And some of you have already been to some discussions we had on hyperthinking, which is a concept that we developed to try and see how you need as an individual to address these changes. And essentially, there are a couple of things that I think our panelists actually share, which is the openness to learn about new things, which is sometimes very difficult, especially when you're incredibly good at your job, when you suddenly say, okay, now I want to learn more. The second thing is that you have to take a certain amount of risk, because in this new environment, you have to experiment and you have to take risk. And the third element is that you have to look at the online space as critical. So these are the things that we've developed, and we have some more details on how this model works, but it's really important to have the right mindset to be able to succeed in this environment. Now, how do you move to this web-based model? I've kind of put 9 simple steps, and I'm starting at the beginning, not because I'm assuming that all of you have no knowledge of the web, but because I think it's really important to step back when you go into these projects, because it's easy to get absorbed into technology, but the important thing is to decide first to start from the beginning and to have a clear kind of path and a clear roadmap. So the first and most important thing I would say is that you need to take this personally. If you're a manager, if you're in a senior position in an organization, in order to understand how these things affect you, you need to have a personal experience of how these tools work. And that means, for instance, if you haven't been spending a lot of time online, to search for interesting bloggers in your field, identifying these bloggers and then putting them in. You see the green logo is NetVibes, it's an aggregator, and that way you can actually follow what these bloggers are saying. And that's a learning process. Now the second step then is to actually start engaging. And some people have been surfing, reading blogs, but haven't actually commented. And I think the fact of just making this gesture and putting your comment and starting expressing your point of view changes everything. So it's a really interesting experience, just a way to get involved. And the IBC Ning platform is a great way to start, because these are people that you'll see. You know, most of the people here today will have access to this, and you can go back from here and carry on the conversations that will start today. The second thing is that you need to map out a vision. Now, I don't mean that you need to hire McKinsey to do a 6-month study on what vision you need for the next 10 years, but you need to have an idea of where you're heading in the next couple of years. Because despite the changes and the fact that everything goes so fast in the internet world, you still need to think, okay, where are we heading? What will it look like in a couple of years' time, so that I know that I'm moving in that direction? So take the time to invent something, to imagine what it could look like, and then review that on a regular basis. The third step is to get your team together. Now, I don't mean to create a formal team. I mean to get a guerrilla underground team. Look in your company for people who actually are excited about this stuff. And you'll find that there might be a blogger, there might be somebody really active on Facebook, etc. Well, these people can really help you because they can get all these things started. But normally they might not be in your team, and it doesn't really matter. You just need to bring them together as part of your team so that they can help you to do things. And you'll see that the obstacles that you face in an organization can be quite huge in terms of those new tools that you can use. Step 4 is to walk the talk. Once you're starting, you have to start using some of these online tools. You have to look at simple document sharing, and it's not as easy as it sounds, because in certain companies it's quite difficult to get everyone to start using these online tools, which they probably have, but to use them effectively. And then to start using things like the sharing of a file, a wiki, where you can all edit documents together, etc. But just experiment with this so that people can see how it can work for you.